Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for joining me today on episode 71 of Untold Evidence. Today is the day an Air Force general wrote that UFOs are real. We start our journey on September of 1947. This is a piece of paper in the United States National Archive. It says in plain English that UFOs are real, and the man who signed it was not a tabloid writer. He was not a fringe theorist. He was Lieutenant General Nathan Twining, the commander of the Air Materiel Command at the Wright Field, one of the most senior officers in the entire United States Air Force. He wrote it less than 2 months after the Roswell incident, and he sent it directly to the Pentagon. His exact words on the page: "The phenomenon reported is something real, and not visionary or fictitious." That's a fairly direct and stark statement. Let our story continue. So, let's start with being very clear about what the document is and what it is not. It is real. It is declassified. It is in the National Archive. You can read it, and the link is in the description. It is not a UFO sighting. Twining himself did not see a craft. What he wrote was an internal memorandum sent on the 27th of September 1947 from Air Materiel Command at Wright Field in Ohio to Brigadier General George Schlugen at the Pentagon. The subject line is one sentence long: AMC opinion concerning flying discs. And in that memo, the United States Air Force most senior technical authority on aircraft and engineering in writing told the Pentagon what his command had concluded. He could have buried it. He could have softened it. He did neither. Twining's memo is short, about a page, and every line earned its place. He said the phenomenon was something real, not visionary, not fictitious. He laid out what the reports had in common, and the consistency was striking. Disc-shaped objects, metallic, light-reflecting surfaces, circular or elliptical, with a flat bottom and a dome top, flying in formation of 3 to 9. Abrupt, controlled maneuvers, turns and acceleration beyond what any known aircraft of that time could do. Silent, no exhaust trail. The reports came from credentialed witnesses: military pilots, radar operators, trained observers. Twining noted that the descriptions across many independent sightings lined up. And then the most consequential line of the memo. He made a recommendation. He told the Pentagon that the matter deserved a formal study, a dedicated project with a security clarification. It had to have a priority, and it had to have a name. The Pentagon listened, and the project Twining recommended was created. It was called Project Sign. Within a couple of years, it became Project GRUDGE, and by 1952, it had become the name most people know: Project Bluebug. This is the entire official USA UFO investigation program. The program that ran for over 2 decades started with one singular one-page memo. Now, before this turns into something it shouldn't, we have to be careful, because the Twining memo is real, and the Twining memo also has things in it that the dramatic version skips over. First, Twining did not say he knew about the objects or what they were. He said that the phenomenon was real. That is a different statement. Real means the sightings were not hallucinations. It does not mean the craft were extraterrestrial. The memo is explicit on this point. Twining noted directly that it was possible within the United States' own knowledge of aircraft engineering to construct a piloted machine with similar characteristics if the developed efforts were made. In other words, it might be technology, American, Soviet, or something experimental. The memo does not rule out conventional explanations. It just says they have not been confirmed. Secondly, The memo states clearly that no physical evidence had been recovered, no crashed debris, no exhibits in his possession. The conclusion that the phenomenon was real was based on the consistency of the reports, not on retrieved hardware. And thirdly, the memo was a request for more study, not a declaration of contact. Twining was a careful officer asking for a careful investigation. He was not announcing aliens, he was saying, this deserves a project. So the honest reading is layered. An Air Force general did write it. He wrote it in 1947, that UFOs were real. That part is true, and in itself remarkable. He did not write that they were extraterrestrial. He did not have evidence of crashed craft. He recommended further work. The dramatic version takes the first line out and waves it like a flag. The honest version reads the whole page. So if Twining did not prove aliens, why does this memo endure? Because of what it did to the official record. Before September the 23rd, 1947, the United States government had no formal position on UFOs. Afterwards, it had a project, a budget, a priority, and a written acknowledgement from a senior general that the reports were not nonsense. And that changes everything. It set the institutional baseline. Every later inquiry sits downstream of this one page. Project Blue Book, the Robinson Panel, the Condon Report, the modern AARO, all of it. They exist because Twining said that this deserved a project and someone above him said yes. And here is the part that should sit with you. The memo was classified for years, as they always are. The public did not know it existed, as is always the case. It was declassified later, as some of it is, and made available through the Freedom of Information Act. It survived not because the Air Force advertised it, but because the paper trail held. Now, what the Twining memo really says is something quieter than the headline, and more lasting than the conspiracy. A senior officer with no political angle looked at the reports his command had received and put on paper that they could not be dismissed. He did not claim to know what they were. He claimed they were worth taking seriously, and he asked the Pentagon in writing to do exactly that. You do not have to believe in aliens to find this memo remarkable. You only have to read the words Lieutenant General of the United States Air Force put on paper in 1947 and ask yourself why those words have never been retracted. And more than that, it founded the base of all projects of American government intervention on UFOs, at least in the public sector. The private sector, as we've discussed in different episodes, is a bit of a jungle. The link to the full memo is in the description. Read it for yourself and tell me what you think. Does Twining's caution change how you read the famous line? Or does the famous line still stand still on its own? As ever, if we've misrepresented or misinformed, get it in the comments and let us know where we get wrong. We are all following the evidence and we are all searching for the truth. This one I find striking as it clearly is the inception of all modern acknowledgement that UFOs, in my view, exist. I love it because it does not strictly state that it is alien. There are so many UFO sightings that I think can reasonably be determined to be human. It seems logical that any sort of alien craft will have been reverse engineered and tested onto the public in a setting that breeds alien phenomena for secrecy and just to test the reaction of the public. We have this debate often in disclosure. You can't say everything at once and you need to test what you can say without causing mass panic. But in 1947, an Air Force general went with his gut, said something was going wrong and escalated it to the highest form of office. And not only did it get there, it was actioned upon. Thank you very much for joining me. Any questions, any comments, please leave them below and we will see you in the next episode.